Yo, it's your boy Pella. I wanted to just show you this quick article from to get some business. It's an article called Cranial Morphology of Early America from Lagoa Santa, Brazil. Implications for the settlement of the New World by Walter Neves and Mark Hubbe, right? So we're just going to scroll down, right? It says, abstract. Comparative morphological studies of the earliest human skeletons of the New World have shown that whereas late prehistoric, recent, and present Native Americans tend to exhibit a cranial morphology similar to late and modern Northern Asians, short and wide neurocrania, high orthognatic and broad faces, relatively high and narrow orbits, noses. The earliest South Americans tend to be more similar to Australians, Melanesians, Sub-Saharan Africans, narrow, long neurocrania, prognatic, low faces, relatively low, broad orbits, and noses. However, most of the previous studies of early American human remains were based on small cranial samples. Herein, we compared the largest sample of early American skulls studied, 81 skulls of the Lagoa Santa region, with worldwide data sets representing global morphological variations in humans. Through 3 different multivariate analyses, the results obtained from this multivariate analysis confirm a close morphological affinity between South American Paleoindians and extant Australo-Melanesian groups, supporting the hypothesis that 2 distinct biological populations could have colonized the New World in the Pleistocene Holocene transition, right? So here, let's read that again, what he says. The earliest South Americans tend to be more similar to present Australians, Melanesians, and Sub-Saharan Africans. You see that, right? And then he says, the results obtained from multivariate analysis confirm a close morphological affinity between South Americans, Paleoindians, and extant Australo-Melanesians. So what he's saying, the earliest Americans tend to be more similar to Australians, black folks, Melanesians, black folks, Sub-Saharan Africans, black folks, right? Okay, so we're going to scroll down, right? So we see on the same article, it said discussions and conclusions, right? It says, the 3 different quantitative analyses undertaken in this study demonstrate that the first Americans exhibit a cranial so we're talking about the people's heads, right? From their cranial. The cranial morphology that is very different from late and modern Northeastern Asians and Amerindians, short and wide neurocrania, high orthognatic faces, relatively high and narrow orbits and noses, but very similar to present Australian, Melanesians, and Africans, especially with the latter, right? So read that again. He said the 3 different quantitative analyses undertaken in this study demonstrate that the first South Americans exhibit a cranial morphology that is very different from late and modern Northeastern Amerindians. So he's like, hey, the first ones are different from the ones we call Native Americans, but they're very similar to the present Australia, Melanesian black folks, Africans, black folks, especially with the former Africans, right? And then he says, taking into account the large number of early specimens used in the study, this trend is unlikely to be a result of simple bias. The phenomenon cannot as well be said to represent the result of microevolutionary process restricted to Lagoa Santa, because some cranial patterns has already been described in places as distant as ecology different in South Chile, Magellan Strait, Colombia, Mexico, Messin Basin, Baja California, United States, Florida, elsewhere in Brazil. So what he's saying? This phenomenon as well cannot represent the result of microevolutionary process restricted to Lagoa Santa. Because this same cranial pattern has already been described as places as distant as and ecologically different as South Chile, Magellan Strait, Colombia, Sabana de Bogota, Mexico, Mexico Basin, Baja California, United States, Florida, elsewhere in Brazil. Right? What has been said there? That the first Americans exhibit a cranial morphology that is very different from late and modern Northeastern Asians and American Indians, but very similar to Australians and Africans, especially with the latter. So he is saying, hey, it seems like, hold on. Okay, so this is the article. So it seems like he's saying that from the cranial, from the head skulls they found of early Americans from the Brazil, he says cranial comparative studies of the earliest human skeletons of the New World have shown that whereas late, prehistoric, recent, and present Native Americans tend to exhibit a morphology similar to late and modern North Asians, the earliest South Americans tend to be more similar to present Australians, Malaysians, and Sub-Saharan Africans. Huh? This is by a guy named Walter Neves, who went to their schools, right? See, so just to show you that it's documented. This is December 12, 2005. All right, it's your boy Pella. Read.